Peace. I'm Rami Salam El, and I thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to get right to it. The charge has been made against Noble Drew Ali, and there's claims that he plagiarized other works to create this. This is the Holy Koran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, also known as the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's also called the Holy Koran Circle 7. Several people, and unfortunately, it is the people that look like me, so-called black people, so-called conscious people, who have made the claim that Noble Drew Ali plagiarized this work. Matter of fact, rather than me say it, let's get right to their claims.
Gonna deal with the Moors, then deal with Noble Drew Ali. Deal with the fact that he's a plagiarist and that they broke the law, taken from other people's books that they did not get permission from. That right there shows a disingenuous organization. I'm done.
And of course, if we go into the Quran Circle 7 that Noble Drew Ali brought, we'll find that 50% of it comes from the Aquarian Gospel, and the other 50% comes from a thing called Unto Thee I Grant. And if you read this book, they break it down on page 67 by Scott Joseph Farley, A Rhetorical History of Malcolm X. The reason I got an issue with this is because we cannot liberate black people with white psychology. There was a white reverend that came up with that information. But Islam has done so good for the black community. Go to the next slide.
This is him. This is who he stole from. Levi Dowling. This is who he stole from. All right? Levi Dowling claimed that he had the lost 18 years of Jesus' history. All right? Look. The genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of the events, life, and works of teachers in India. So Dowling said he had the secret history, 18 years lost. Then Drew Ali said he had, because he copied his ass.
I put this shit side by side. So the key is Noble Drew Ali is a master plagiarist. That's not slander. That's fact. Because you done pinpointed the original book. Now, how I got there, you say, well, he prepared it. Well, he prepared it without the permission of the original authors. I don't give a fuck what he did. If you take my shit, I don't give a fuck. They put it, you cannot use it in no books, no this. They put the whole shit up there. So y'all keep talking law and y'all see that's a flagrant disrespect of law. Copyrights is there for a reason. And so y'all, that's plagiarism, nigga. And that right there kills it. You're dishonest. You're dishonest. You stealing other people's shit, preparing it and having people believing that you was the author. And if I had not went behind and showed the people the original books, that's what they would have believed. And y'all got away with that. But then when we put that shit up in your face, you want to say he prepared it. That's bullshit. You busted, nigga. You busted. He's a plagiarist. I'm done. Boom.
All right, so you've heard the claims. Now let's see the evidence. Let's take away the ego. Let's take away the personalities. It's not what I say versus what these brothers are saying. It's what is the facts. What is the truth of the matter? So before we even get to the Quran and the Aquarian Gospel and Unto Thee I Grant, let's first look up the definition of plagiarize. I'm first going to look it up in the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. If you don't have one, please go get a Black's Law, a law dictionary. It doesn't have to be Black's Law dictionary. It's very important, especially when you're dealing with matters of law, what's legal, anything that has to do with any contracts, etc. That's dealing with law and legality, and you need to know what words mean in this context and not just in a social or a cultural context. So looking at plagiarize, it's on page 1308, plagiarism. The act of appropriating the literary composition of another, or parts or passages of his writings, or the ideas or language of the same, and passing them off as the product of one's own mind. And then I wanted to look it up also on Google, just so that we would be crystal clear. So go to Google, and in the search bar, you type define space plagiarize, Plagiarize, plagiarize. Then what will come up is the verb, plagiarize, to take the work or an idea of someone else and pass it off as one's own. To copy from someone and pass it off as one's own. So, in short, somebody's work, hey, I like this here, I'm going to take it, I'm going to package it my way and say, hey, this is my work. Even though I didn't have anything, this is not my literary work at all. I'm just claiming it as mine. That's what plagiarism is. And it's actually a crime. One example of that, especially for Black History Month, is Alex Haley and Roots. Alex Haley plagiarized, meaning he took almost the entire story from another author named Harold Corlander, who's actually a European. This is one of the books that Harold Corlander wrote, The Fourth World of the Hopis. Harold Corlander, there you can see it right there. Harold. Corlander is Courlander. Piece of that brother that has some amazing works. I don't have the book that the roots came from actually, but anyways, that's an example. If you don't believe me, I don't want you to believe me. Look it up for yourself. Alex Haley, Roots, plagiarized. It'll come up. It's fact. And he was sued in court, and Harold Corlander was victorious over that. So now that we have plagiarism on the record, now let's look at the subject of the discussion. The Holy Quran. The claim is that Noble Drew Ali copied a portion of the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ from Levi Dowling and a portion from Unto Thee I Grant, and combine them and put them in this book here. On the front cover, I want to see, maybe you might be able to see that clearly. It says, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali. So, on the very cover itself, it doesn't say it was written by Noble Drew Ali. It doesn't say it was created by Noble Drew Ali. It doesn't say it was authored by Noble Drew Ali. It doesn't say coming only from Noble Drew Ali. It doesn't say any of that. It says divinely prepared. So, on this fact alone, not what I'm saying, on the fact of what plagiarism is in law and by definition, Noble Drew Ali and this work do not fit the criteria, do not meet the standard to claim that this is plagiarized, because Noble Drew Ali is not claiming this as his own works. But let's go deeper, because you may say, oh, well, it just says that on the cover. Let's go a little deeper. And you can follow along. I'll pull up the link for you. Excuse me. If you go into the Google search bar and you type in Holy Quran Circle 7, and that's Holy, Quran is spelled Koran, circle, and the number 7. What'll come up is the first link should be hermetic.com/Moorish. If you click that, it'll be hermetic.com, hermetic.com/Moorish/7Quran.html. So you can follow along and read along with me. So you do not have to just believe what I'm saying. You can research it, and when you pull it up, the main difference, this is actually a reproduction of the 1926 edition. So it still says Holy Moorish Holy Temple of Science, and at the top of this one it says the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's because it underwent a name change in 1928. Getting to the back to the book. If you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see it has a prologue section, and if you click that, it'll drop you right down. Just read it real brief. Up top, the genealogy of Jesus with 18 years of the events, life works, and teachings in India, Europe, and Africa. These events occurred before he was 30 years of age. These secret lessons are for all of those who love Jesus and desire to know about his life works and teachings. So here is describing what this book is about. It's about the history of Jesus, also known as Joshua, Isa. And I don't even want to get into that. Let's get back to this. Here we go. The reasons, and I'm dropping down to the second paragraph. The reasons these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India, Egypt, and Palestine had these lessons. Let's pause there. So, these lessons were already in existence from Muslims, which also is Moors. And they were in India, Egypt, and Palestine. And it's saying in the prologue, these lessons were already created. They are already there. And they had them in those areas. So, again, it's making it clear Noble Drew Ali did not write these. He did not author these lessons. Prepared them. Let's continue. Palestine had these secrets and kept them back from the outside world. And when the time appointed by Allah, they loosened the keys and freed these secrets. And for the first time in ages have these secrets been delivered in the hands of the Muslims of America. All authority and rights of publishing of this pamphlet of 1927 by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. There you go. So, also, this is also clarifying that Noble Drew Ali didn't steal these lessons. No. These lessons were given to us by Allah from the Muslims. When Allah said it was time, they gave the lessons to Noble Drew Ali, who brought them back. But we'll get a little deeper in that. Before we get there, I wanted to read something. And excuse me, I have a lot. This topic I've seen many people make this claim, and it's a bit aggravating, only because I know some of these individuals, polite Ali Muhammad. I know that these people know this information, and they're purposely trying to mislead people, and that really bothers me. But it's okay, because schemers and people, they make plans, and Allah makes plans. Let's go to, again, not what I say, not what anyone else is saying. Let's stick to the evidence. This is Moorish literature from the Moorish Science Temple of America. This is like an official compilation of writings from Noble Drew Ali when he was on the earth. We're going to go right to number 25. And this one is entitled, and if you want to follow along and you don't have this information, just go for Google. Let's go back to Google search so you can read along with this one. Let's see, pull them up. You go to Google search, go to Moorish literature. And the first site that comes up there is Moorish Guide Literature, moorishkingdom.tripod.com/ID56. And right at the top it says Allah's Temple, the New Moorish Literature. And if you scroll down, they're numbered there. And if you scroll down to 25, you will come to the excerpt that's called Masterpiece of Religious Literature, Secrets of Other Creeds Revealed. The Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, has spent many hours preparing the latest edition of the Koran, which will be a masterpiece of religious literature. To Americanize the Oriental idea of Islam involves many changes that are more or less negative to the main purpose of the Islamic religion. Such changes are carefully considered with the idea to avoid changing the complexion of the original text. The philosophy of the ancient prophets is the main initiative in the compilation of the Quran. Meaning they're compiling, putting together separate pieces, meaning those pieces were already established, meaning that he's not claiming that he wrote them. Noble Drew Ali, that is, just if you weren't clear. No thoughts of propaganda enter this work, as has been the cause of many former religious works, such as the Bible and other books of creed. Ain't that something? Let's continue. That's, my goodness. The sole purpose of the prophet in giving such a message to the world is to save fallen humanity. When a compiler attempts to inject propaganda into a work of this kind, there arises a need to cover the true text in order to prevent a clash with the truth and ideas involved in such propaganda. Former works of this kind have either hindered or helped the nations proportionately to the adherence to the truth, as to the original purpose of keeping the ignorant in such a state. It is hard to resist the temptation to use this medium for gain. Hence, many of the former treatises on works of this kind have been the means to foster ideas of the unscrupulous, wherein they desire to use religious influence for gain. The many secrets known to the prophet that could be used for the salvation of the nation were either left out or colored to an extent that their meaning was made void. Such is not the case with this edition of the Quran. So he's saying that in previous works, people that were schemers injected certain things for religious influence and gain, and that the secrets, the true lessons that we are supposed to get when we pick up the Bible or we pick up other religious texts, was either left out, just removed from the book completely, or colored to an extent that their meaning was made void. Whew. That's deep right there. Let's get back to it. And then he's saying, such is not the case with this edition of the Quran, meaning that the secret meanings are in here and not covered so that they're made void. All the secrets of the ages known to man are put into this work. This book is 64 pages, by the way. All of the secrets of the ages known to man are put into this work. The secrets known only to the Magi are here revealed. The reading of the stars, the interpretation of marriage relations, the understanding of the span of life, and other such as has been kept from the Occidental world are in this book boldly brought out. The Quran, Americanized as it will be, can be bought in a few weeks. It will be sent to all governors of the Moorish Science Temples of America. By Noble Dryly. So, if we weren't clear before, we are now crystal clear. Noble Dryly is not claiming to be the author of the Quran, nor the writer, nor the creator. He is a compiler. He prepared it. Are we clear? Cannot be plagiarism because he's not claiming it as his own. Never has. And you can't find a single piece of literature that has Noble Drew Ali making this claim. You can't find it because it doesn't exist. So those claims are completely void. Cool? This is not my opinion. This is not the opinion of just Moore saying this. This is simply the facts. Now, if you don't want to accept the facts as being true, well, that's, on you. But they are what they are. Truth is truth. And it does not change nor pass away.
Saturday, sovereign, super, natural state, master, title track, Muhammad Ali, Wamiya, Mahatma. The power of a good name is very important. Tucson, Loverjoy, Noble Jew, Marcus, El Hard, Shabazz, Tupac, and Asada. Jesus Sojourner, Gil Scott, the Reverend Dr. King, Imam Jamil, the Angel Gabriel, Black Dog, the Black Panther Party, Zulu Nation. And what did this young man say his name is? Yasin.
Now, made it crystal clear, put an end, a period mark, end of discussion, put it to bed, lights off on the idea that Noble Drew Ali is a plagiarist. He is not. Fact. Because by the definition, he would have had to claim authorship of the Quran in order for him to be a plagiarist. That's part of the definition of plagiarism, is that you copy someone's work and you present it as your own. And it was evidence and documentation shown both from the Quran itself as well as outside the Quran that Noble Drew Ali did not claim that he was the author, and furthermore established that this information, these lessons, had already been in existence prior to him coming into the information. So, just off of that alone, not even looking at any other text, we can show and prove that Noble Drew Ali isn't a plagiarist. But I want to make sure that we clear up the front end of that, because I want it to be crystal clear that Noble Drew Ali did not steal the information from Levi Dowling, and especially Levi Dowling, because that is the one person that I hear people like Polite, people like Ali Muhammad, what's the other guy, Sarah Sunseti, Shaka Amos, and anybody that tries to talk against Noble Drew Ali, they always try to throw that in, and it's a very nonsensical argument. And I have some documentation that I want to get to, but before that, I really want you watching, I want us to use our minds right now, and let's just use common sense and think about this. We have so-called conscious brothers. These people are the same people that say we need to come together in unity, and they are trying to make the claim that one of the people that look like us, dark melanated skinned brother, is also a universal prophet, a universal on the same level as Buddha, Confucius, on that level of a prophet, right? They're trying to accuse him of copying sacred information about Jesus, Isa, Yahshua, who also looks just like us. And it's in the Quran, and it spells it out plain as day. Matter of fact, let me get this right now before we even get to that, man. This doesn't make any sense to me. Let's see here. Jesus. Here we go. In the chapter, The Beginning of Christianity, no less. Line 2. Jesus himself was of the true blood of the ancient Canaanites and Moabites and the inhabitants of Africa. So, whether you feel Jesus existed or not, whatever, the book that Noble Drew Ali brought, the Quran, is putting it very plain. You don't have to interpret it through the Bible verse, and you don't have to guess. And no, he's saying this person we know as Jesus was a descendant of the inhabitants of Africa and the Canaanites and the Moabites, which were our people, dark-skinned people. So understand that you have a book that's making it clear on who Jesus was and what Jesus looked like and where his lineage is from, amongst plenty of other information. And you have conscious brothers who are trying to attack a universal prophet and claim that he got this information from a European man. Understand, use your common sense now, that a universal prophet from North America, born in North Carolina, no less, that he had to copy a European in order to get this information. What kind of sense does that make? Never mind the fact that this European man also was in the U.S. Army, which historically has not been good for our people or any people around the world. Okay? He also is in Christianity, which goes against this, because if you look in chapter 48, the end of time and the fulfilling of prophecies, we go right on down to number 7. It says, oh no, let me go to 6 first, so that we can get that whole thing together. We, as a clean and pure nation descended from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed, for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. So again, you have information like this in the Holy Koran, and these people, so-called brothers, who claim that they want unity and want to uplift quote-unquote black people, are making a ludicrous claim that Noble Jew Ali, again, a prophet, had to plagiarize a European man. Think about that. Think about that. And while you're thinking, I'm going to play you a clip of this guy named Shaka Utmost, one of the so-called conscious people. He's into, Kemetic science and the Nile Valley civilization in ancient Egypt, etc., etc., etc. And you're going to watch this clip, and you're going to see he isn't very well studied in this information, but is just arrogantly making claims about Noble Drew Ali and what he did and did not do, what the Quran, where it came from and did not come from.
Dealing with this particular portion of the book, which is the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ, I got the author's name right here. I looked it up. Okay. The man's name is Levi H. Dowling. Levi H. Dowling. This is the author of the book of the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ. He was born May 18th, 1844, and he died August 13th, 1911. He was an American preacher, right? He was born, no, with a name like Levi, I don't think so. But hold on, let me find out right now. I'm sure they'll talk about his parentage, right? I doubt it. He was an American preacher born in Belleville, Ohio, all right? His father, look at it, hold on, look at it, you're gonna love this. His father, of Scots and Welsh descent, this is a English dude, right? Was a pioneer preacher among the disciples of Christ. So this is where this Aquarian Gospel is coming from. A man with this heritage, right? At the age of 13, in his first public debate, he took the negative side against the Presbyterian elder on the everlasting punishment of the wickedness. Levi began preaching at the age of 16, and at the age of 18 was the pastor of a small church. He entered the United States Army at the age of 20 as a chaplain, served in capacity in the Civil War, 1866. He was a student at Northwestern Christian University. So the dude was basically just absorbed in Christianity all of his life from his birth. Even as a child, he was impressed with the sensitiveness of the finer ethers and believed that in some manner they were sensitized plates on which sounds, even thoughts, were recorded. He studied etheric vibration, determined to solve the great mysteries of the heavens for himself. 40 years he spent in studying silent meditation, and allegedly, eventually, he found himself in that stage of spiritual consciousness that permitted him to enter the domain of these superfine ethers and become familiar with their mysteries. All right, this dude was like... During the meditation, it was claimed that he was able to repeat events as many times as necessary in order to produce a perfect transcript. He spent many months transcribing the events he supposedly witnessed in the Book of God's Remembrance, also known as the Akashic Records. Oh my God. This is the same man responsible for the Akashic Records. All right. This is some real spooky mumbo bumbo bullshit. All right. Yeah. spooky mumbo bumbo bullshit. All right. Yes, it says right here. The Book of Remembrance. It says right here. Also known as the Akashic.
They're not talking about the actual Akashic record.
No, hold on 1 second. Let me make sure of that.
Yeah.
It says also, I can read, it says also known as the Akashic Records. The Theosophy and Anthropology, the Akashic Records, a term coined in the late 19th century from Akasha Akasi, the Sanskrit word for sky, space, a compendium of thoughts of emotion by Theos. Hold on 1 second. Let's see who created it. And emotion, because I know how you metaphysicists are. Y'all think all this stuff just fell out of the sky. Events, emotions believed by Theosophists to be encoded in a non-physical plane of existence. So there's a bunch of bullshit, astral plane, and anecdotal accounts, but no scientific evidence for existence of the account. But there are anecdotal accounts, but no scientific evidence for existence of the Akashic records. All right, I see Rudolf Steiner's name.
All right, so as you can see, Shaka Almost was reading the biography of Levi Dowling, and after the person that interrupted him and was correcting him on something, that was a Moor piece, the red pill and blue pill, two Moors, twins at that, two Moors in the New York territory of North America. Much love to them. That's actually where I got the Moors hoodie that you may see in other videos from. That's Kings County Clothing. Let me get it correct for you. Yeah. kingscounty.bigcartel.com, and that's KINGZKOUNTY.bigcartel.com. So go there to get your Moorish apparel. But anyways, back to the subject at hand. As Shaka Almost was reading, that is when he realized that Levi Dowling himself is not the author of the Aquarian Gospel, that he claims that he transcribed the information from the ether realm. Yes, the ether realm in the sky, not a physical place. It wasn't some ancient manuscript or some ancient scrolls that he transcribed this information from, but that he meditated and went into the sky and got the information and brought it back down. That's Levi Dowling. Now, if you want to believe that, it's your choice. Believe what you wish, whatever floats your boat. Okay. And I know what some of you are going to say. Well, that doesn't explain where Noble Drew Ali got his information, because you just said Allah loosened the key, so that's just saying the same thing, because Allah, you can't see. Okay, no problem. Let me show you some evidence. This is Synchronicity in the Seventh Seal. This is from Peter Moon. He also has another book called Spandau Mystery, and that is SPANDAU, Spandau Mystery. That has a more in-depth, detailed account of Noble Drew Ali's travels, but this book will work for what I'm working to communicate with you. And I'm going to be reading from page 274, and this is chapter 35. The chapter is titled Noble Drew Ali, by the way, and the person, Peter Moon, is a European, by the way, doing a lot more work than most of our brothers, by the way. Page 274. Prior to World War I, Noble Drew Ali visited Egypt. Shaka. Seti. Polite. Read that again. Prior to World War I, Noble Drew Ali visited Egypt and met the last priest of an ancient cult, who took him into the Great Pyramid blindfolded. When Drew Ali made his way out unassisted, the priest initiated him, very clear, and gave him the name Sharif Abdul Ali. On this trip to the Mideast, Ali put together a book known as the Circle of Seven Koran. So now let's analyze this. Noble Drew Ali, and this is, mind you, this is from a European brother at that. You have Noble Drew Ali And if you study outside of this book, you have several other sources that will also confirm this same timeline. The first 16 years of Noble Drew Ali's life, he was born in 1886, just so we recap, 1886. The first 16 years are kind of wishy-washy. There's no real clear evidence as to exactly where he was. But from 16, we know from several sources, including this, including also Elihu Pleasant Bay's book, Exhuming of a Nation, Noble Drew Ali, that Noble Drew Ali traveled to Egypt and Africa, okay, Egypt, Kemet, and he studied for 10 years before he came back in 1912, and then in 1913 would open up the Canaanite temple in New Jersey. But for those 10 years, he was in Egypt studying. That makes a lot more sense to me, personally, and I hope it does to you, that a person was studying for 10 years in Egypt to get this ancient information and then brought it back. That makes more sense than believing a European man meditated, went into the ethers, transcribed information, and brought it back. To me. Once again, that's for you to decide. But based on logic and reasoning, I'm going to have to side with a prophet who's saying that he went over to Africa, no less, to Egypt, and studied the information, versus somebody, a European guy, who's not a prophet, wasn't a messenger, who didn't come with our nationality. There's nowhere in the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ does it mention Moors, or the so-called blacks and Moors. It doesn't say that anywhere. That's not the message that Levi Dowling was on at all. But if you want to believe Levi Dowling over Noble Drew Ali, a universal prophet, sent specifically to the so-called blacks because we needed him most, if that's what you want to do, cool. Brother Polite, Shaka Atmos, Sonetta, so-called black, whoever that wants to try to disrespect Noble Drew Ali. If that's how you want to roll, hey, it's your choice again. But we're not going to stop there. Also, going to read a little bit from Othello's Children in the New World, Moorish History and Identity in the African American Experience by Jose V. Pimienta Bay. Excuse me if I don't pronounce that correctly. You spell that just so you can look it up for yourself. Last name Pimienta Bay, B-E-Y, Ph.D. at that. So I'm going to be reading from page 191. And it says here, when discussing the Moorish Koran, Simpson implies that Ali knowingly plagiarized much of it from the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ. But Ali never claimed to have written the Moorish Koran. He only states that he prepared it. Simpson says that the Aquarian Gospel is a text which is said to have been spiritually revealed to Levi Dowling, a Scott Welshman living in 19th century Ohio. This account is echoed by a quote-unquote black divinity school via Howard University's Director of African American Religious Bodies. But neither Howard University nor Simpson ever entertained the possibility that Levi's Aquarian Gospel and Ali's Moorish Quran were both part of a continuum of more ancient sources. You see? This information is ancient. Noble Drew Ali prepared it, divinely prepared it, to be specific. Not authored, not written. Dowling himself had most likely drawn from an earlier written source, and that is precisely what Irish-American researcher Peter Lamborn Wilson found in his research, and that is in Sacred Drift. That's also a book I have, but I can't find it right now. I think both of those are in the same place. But continuing, in his more contemporary work of the early 1990s, Wilson traces much of the Aquarian Gospel and Moorish Quran's text back to manuscripts found by Nicholas Notovich, Notovitch, Nicholas Notovich, in a Tibetan monastery. It's very interesting. Just reading a little bit further. Notovich was a Russian Jew who converted to the Russian Orthodox faith. Notovich published the manuscripts in 1894 after having acquired them from Tibetan monks who had compiled them as the works of Saint Isa. Significantly, Isa is the Muslim Arabic reference for Jesus. Interestingly enough, Isa is also the Gaelic term for Jesus. Now, what's interesting about that, this Russian brother, peace to the brother Nicholas Notovich, he found these at a Tibetan monastery. And if we flip back here again to the Holy Koran, right? It says the reasons these lessons have not been known is because the Muslims of India and Egypt, we already covered Egypt, we didn't cover Palestine, and I don't even really want to get into that deep because that goes into a whole other thing. But India, and if you just look on a map, don't have to go far, but if you look on a map, let me see if matter of fact, hold on one second. Was going to try to show you a map to show you how close India and Tibet are, but they're right next to each other. So we had this information in India, and the Russian brother found it in Tibet. But I don't even want to just leave it at that because there's something I want to show you. So we're going to go to a clip, and then we're going to come back.
When I found myself in northern India and encountered probably two of the finest people, even to this day, that I've ever met, my teachers, they told me I was in India for two reasons. Was to learn the Tibetan philosophy and ideas, and then to share them with my part of the world. And the second reason why I was there is they wanted me to know about Isha. Of course, at that moment in time, I had never heard that name before. But the interesting thing is they are the same people. Isha is Jesus in Hindi, in the far eastern part of the world. The ironic thing is that name originated out of India, but it's also, there's Lake Isha in Nepal. The name is known in Tibet. The name is also known in what we call Iran today. It was Persia back then, and it's known also a good portion of the Orient. I spent 6 years of my life studying with the Tibetans. They are meticulous record keepers. They have a contiguous, touching records of every great master that has ever been in that part of the world. They literally have scribes, secretaries, basically, that write down everything they say. No one can sit anywhere and tell me that Buddha wrote down the sutras. He didn't. Someone else did. And the same is true with Christ. Now, if you were to go into one of the monasteries, I can tell you without hesitation that it is in, and it's the first place I saw them, the documents, is the Himis Monastery in Ladakh, which is one of the states of northern India. If you were to walk in there and say, I would like to see the scrolls of about Isha, they would look at you and say they don't exist. But if you were to go there and they trust in you and they like you and they understand that you're not there to dispel, they would walk up to you and say, your Isha was here. And what Kaila did, who was my abbot, my lama, is he told the abbot of that monastery why I was there. That I was there to study Isha and what he was doing there, what he was learning, what he was being taught. And the abbot of that monastery scurried off. He brought several scrolls back with him, and Kaila got an interpreter, and the interpreter read the Sanskrit words to me.
In 1894, Russian journalist Nicholas Notovich was the first to publish a translation of the Buddhist manuscripts which describe Jesus' life in India in his book, The Unknown Life of Jesus. Another well-known personality who wrote about Jesus living in India was Swami Abhedananda, who was president of the Vedanta Society in New York. Dr. Harefield is only the 18th person and the second American who has ever been allowed to read the precious documents.
And that's how I made the connection, because when they said to me, "Your Jesus was here," this was his name. Now, I was raised as Catholic. I was stunned. My first inclination was, no way.
I mean, do I really have to go any further? Are you seeing the trend that's going on? Nicholas Notovich, the Russian brother, who got the information from a Tibetan monastery about Isa, Jesus. Then you have this brother here, the European brother, that traveled to India, to the monasteries, Tibet, got the information about Isa, about Jesus. You see the trend? See, Noble Drew Ali did not copy this information from Levi Dowling, the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ. But there's something that I find interesting with those claims of those people. If you listen closely, they never said that the information was incorrect. I think partly because they didn't study. But in truth, it's history. It's records. So it's not going to change unless the person who is transcribing is injecting some propaganda, then it would change. Otherwise, the records are the records. And it doesn't matter if the Russian guy gets it in 1870 or whatever he gets it, or Noble Drew Ali, they got it in 1902, or you go right now in 2016. The information is the information. It's the truth. Yes, Isa, Jesus, Yahshua was a real person. Yes. And I have a video, if you wanted to learn more, was Jesus a real person or a myth? So you can watch that if you're interested. But let's stick to the topic, because I know what some people are going to say. Well, yeah, you proved that about the Aquarian Gospel, but you didn't say anything about Unto Thee I Grant. And Sarah Sudanseti and Polite, they were saying that Noble Drew Ali copied half of it from Unto Thee I Grant. So what about that half? No problem. We're just gonna touch on this real briefly. We don't even have to get too deep in this, because once you see what happens, you see everything lines up. So I did some searching. I was trying to find the actual text. I can't find it right now. Unto Thee I Grant. But you can go to amorc.org.uk. This is the Rosicrucian Collection website. So you go here, amorc.org.uk/collection/unto-the-I-grant. Or if you just look up Unto Thee I Grant, AMORC, it'll come up. And this is just the book description. I'm going to just read the book description. Several versions of this extraordinary book of spiritual and moral guidance have been in private circulation since about 1750. Although the first 18th century editor gives a brief history of the discovery of the original Tibetan manuscript from which it is translated. Unto Thee I Grant, the book that we're reading now, or the book that if you look it up and you can find it and you're reading, was transcribed from Tibetan manuscript. Think that's a coincidence? No. Well, let's continue. Gives a brief history of the discovery of the original Tibetan manuscript from which it was translated. Little is known about its true origins and purpose. Research has been done in this regard in recent years, but it is still not known precisely who the author was, when the book was written, whether it was written by one person or as several contributors, and whether it was originally planned and written as a comprehensive course of instruction or was a compilation of sayings collected over a period of years, decades, even centuries. Deep. But just so we're thorough, I had a couple other ones opened up. This one is coming from Rosicrucian.org. That's ROSICRUCIAN.org. And reading here, and this is Rosicrucian.org/Rosicrucian-books-unto-the-I-grant. So if you just go to text, Rosicrucian Books Unto the I Grant is right there. Oh, snap. And you can actually download a PDF copy of the book. I'm about to download it right now. Good. Oh, snap. It popped right open. Let me read this. Let me just read this right from the book itself. Contents, preface. Okay. The original preface and introduction to the matter of this book gives us the following strange, interesting story of the origin, discovery, and translation of this rare mystical work. I'm just trying to find the key here. It's telling a story, got letters. Man, the great representative of God, the Grand Lama, sovereign, emperor of China. Man, I really wish I had known this. The authorship. Here we go. Interesting. Oh, wow. Oh, buddy. Okay. Sorry, find the stuff. Okay, so let me read this. It has a section on page 12. It's called Its Authorship. Unto thee I grant its authorship. And it says, let me just read the whole thing. The reader will note in the letter from the English gentleman to the Earl of Derby that there is some speculation as to the author of the original manuscript. The Grand Lama and his associates claim that the manuscript had been in their possession and used by them as foundation for their teachings since 732 AD. 700s. You know, there's some funny thing about the 700s because that's right around the time when the Moors. Never mind. They meant that the records indicated its existence at that time, but it may have been in their possession of some of their adepts and masters outside of Tibet for many years before that date. It was natural for those in Tibet to attribute the manuscript to one of their great writers, such as Confucius or Lao Kun. But in the light of modern research, and especially in the light of revelations made by the excavations in Egypt and Jerusalem, as in Palestine. Oh my God. I'm sorry. This is just, you can't make this stuff up. If only you would just study. Revelations made by the excavations in Egypt and Jerusalem within the past 100 years and since 1749 when the Tibetan copy was translated into English, we can plainly see that the original manuscript was not written by Confucius or anyone of his time or nation or beliefs. There is every indication throughout the work, as it appears on the following pages, that it was written by Amenhotep IV, Pharaoh of Egypt, during the years 1360 to 1350 BC, or thereafter, or by some of his successors in the great school of mysticism which he founded in Egypt. Really? Come on. What? Do I need to go any further? You guys need to be studying this. This is coming from Egypt. Let me finish up on this page here. Reference to any encyclopedia will reveal the fact that this pharaoh upset the priesthood teachings and idol worship of Egypt by the establishment of a monotheistic mystical religion, and every authority on the history of religion points to him as the first man in the civilized world to proclaim the belief in one God, and he has been rightfully called the greatest modernist of all times. He established a cult or secret brotherhood based upon this mystical religion in the city which he founded and named Akhenaten. I mean, really, what more do you need? I mean, as a matter of fact, do you need this right here? Have you studied this? Moses and Akhenaten? The secret history of Egypt at the time of the Exodus? If you haven't, I highly advise you to. Very important. And while I was, when I pulled this book out, found this as well. It's an old picture. The time is pretty funny to me. That's all. But I wanted to close it up with some teaching, because now we have cleared up the facts that, one, Noble Drew Ali did not plagiarize because he didn't claim this as his own writings, but also that the Aquarian Gospel, that information, did not come from Levi Dowling, and Unto Thee I Grant traces its origin back to Egypt, which only confirms what is said in here, that these secret lessons were in India and Egypt and Palestine, because he said it was in Jerusalem. Come on, I mean, what? Man, but let me finish up, because there is a clip of Seti, who talks very loosely and wildly about Noble Drew Ali and the Moors. So there's a clip of him that I want to show you. Then we're going to come back up and we'll wrap it up. Amazing. I'm sorry. This is just, come on. All right, we'll wrap.
What y'all want me to do? Y'all want me? Drew Ali is a master plagiarist and one of the more profound literary thieves of the 20th century. And I got that out of some books, but I just had to bring it streetwise. That's what they say. Chapters 2 and 19 from the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ by Levi. Chapters 20 through 44 from Unto Thee I Grant. And they say chapters 1, and I mean, that ain't much, 45 through 48 originally by Noble Drew Ali. So they suppose.
Improved about the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. We already talked about Unto Thee I Grant and shown the connections that lead us back to Egypt and India and Tibet and ancient manuscripts and all of that. So now let's discuss the remaining 4 chapters that Seti pointed out and is said to have been written by Noble Drew Ali. I'm just going to read the titles of them and then a small excerpt from the last chapter. Chapter 1 is, the title is The Creation and Fall of Man. Very amazing chapter. Every time I read it, I find something new. Some wisdom is revealed to me in this chapter. So I highly, and it's literally, this page in this section here. Not even a full 2 pages. And it's probably one of the deepest chapter, if not the deepest chapter in this book. So if you read nothing else, check this out. Chapter 45 is the divine origin of the Asiatic nations. Very important. Matter of fact, I'm going to read this. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of their higher self and lower self. Powerful. I mean, it has a lot of more information, but I want you to read it. Chapter 46, the beginning of Christianity. Very important. I think we all need to read this. If you're Christian, if you're Muslim, if you don't believe in any religion, if you think Jesus is fake, etc., read this chapter. Chapter 47 is Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa, which I think would be really important for SETI, Shaka Atmos, Polite, and anybody that is into the Kemetic science, ancient Egypt, culture, history, etc. It will be very, I feel, wise for you to read this chapter. And then lastly is chapter, actually, no, I'm going to read this. No, actually, you read it. I want you to read it. The last chapter is chapter 48, and this is the line I actually did want to read. Okay. I'm going to just read the first three. The last prophet in these days, just so we're clear, in these days, the last prophet is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days, to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner that was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, and his name is Noble Drew Ali. So, it's the Holy Koran, and it identifies Marcus Garvey as the forerunner to our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. He equates Marcus Garvey's position to John in ancient times with Jesus. John was like the right-hand man. I mean, I didn't want to get into that. What I do want to get into, in closing it out, is this book here, Marcus Garvey, Message to the People, the course on African philosophy, New Marcus Garvey Library, number 7. I'm gonna read out of chapter 6 or lesson 6, and it's entitled Christ. If Christ as man never existed, but was only an assumption, it would have been a glorious assumption to set man a high spiritual example of how he should live. There's no cause to doubt that Christ lived. Because you did not see him and feel him yourself as Thomas did, why should you doubt his existence? You can doubt that. You may as well doubt that your great-grandfather ever lived, because you never saw him nor touched him. Logically, there is a fair assumption for you to believe that your grandfather, whom you knew, must have had a father in order to have been born. Logically, his father must have been your great-grandfather. You don't have to see everything to believe it. And you got to move from belief to faith to knowing, just so we're clear. Peace to Marcus Garvey. Moving a little further, just this last part here. The greatest thing that Christ taught was love. Let me read that sentence again. The greatest thing that Christ taught was love. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In these statements are wrapped the highest ideals of a Godhead, as in the relationship of a father with his children. There has been no greater philosophy in the history of mankind. Support this philosophy and never change until God manifests himself or herself to the contrary, which is not likely. Let me read that sentence one more time so that you can get it very clear. There has been no greater philosophy in the history of mankind other than love thy neighbor as thyself, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The golden rule, love. The greatest philosophy. And don't change, don't get off that square until God manifests himself, herself, itself, and says otherwise. Our creed, our divine creed, is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And love is the first principle. Love is the answer. Love is the answer. And even in making this video, I want you to know, Brother Polite, Shaka Amos, Seti, who was the other person? Shaka Amos, Seti, Polite. I'm blanking on the other person right now. But anybody, you watching this, I love you. Seriously, truly. And we have to spread that love. Now, I made this video to correct some mistakes, but really and truly, the most important part of this whole video is to love. Love others as you love yourself. I hope this is getting through to you. I hope that you understand the importance of love and how powerful love is. Yeah. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you. I hope that you spread the message to other people and love spreads all over this world because we need it in these days and times. And I think that's it. Thank you. If you want to contact me for more information, please send me an email at iamhhtemple@gmail.com. Once again, iamhhtemple@gmail.com. Go to moorishdirectory.com, rvbaypublications.com, khalifamedia.com, iamhhtemple.org. Man. Oh, and above all, please read this book. Please read it. Amazing. I think that's it. That's it for real this time. Peace and much love to you.